How has building this business helped you achieve some of the personal stuff that you were talking about? You've wanted to develop more time with family, and I've spoken to you a couple of times, and that's one thing you always mention is you don't miss any game, you don't miss any moment. You're always there. I think in one of our meetings, I don't know if it was your wife or somebody walked in something about your keys, and so there is no separation. I mean, there's very little separation between your personal life and your business. But can you give some examples of, you've gone through this whole journey. You were this business owner that was providing and doing a great job providing, but you were hustling and working hard on weekends. You weren't present, and you wanted to be able to build a business where you can still provide, but also be present. And in fact, potentially, maybe even be able to provide more than you were in the past, but also be there and have that intention of being present. So, what are some examples of what this business has allowed you to do?
Yeah. Well, today, my typical workday. So we've got kids that are in high school right now, and so I've got a daughter that I take to school every morning, and so I take her to school, and then I usually get back home from dropping her off. I get back home around 8 o'clock. And so I'll have breakfast with my wife and then usually start my workday. I'll come into the office around 9, and typically I don't have my first conversation for the day scheduled till 10. So I've got some just buffer time to either, I don't know whatever I'll do. Maybe sometime. Well, this morning I was watching this video of Frank Kern because I'd heard about it and I'd never seen it, and it's like a 2-hour video, and I just got fascinated by it, and so I've been sitting there watching that the last couple days and finished it this morning. Sometimes I might read a book, sometimes I might follow up with some emails or what have you. But then I'll have conversations scheduled throughout the day. That might be maybe just a get to know somebody conversation that I got introduced to. It might be a podcast interview for my podcast, or as in this case, doing a podcast interview with you for your podcast. It might be a discovery call or a sales conversation, but those calls are typically at like 10 to noon, and then 1 to 3. Those are the windows for my calls and stuff. And I'm done working every day at 3 o'clock, Monday through Thursday, because that's when my kids get out of school and stuff. And
Right.
so I am always done by 3 o'clock. On Fridays, those are the days that I host virtual roundtables, and I'll host those virtual roundtables a couple times a month on a Friday. And so if I'm hosting a virtual roundtable, I'm done working by like between 12:30 and 1 o'clock on that Friday. And if I'm not hosting a virtual roundtable, I just take the Friday off and make it a 3-day weekend. So either way, it's a 2.5-day weekend or a 3-day weekend every weekend and stuff.